I'm really excited for today because of the topic that we are going to go over today. Has to do with government. That's going to be interesting. Okay. But before we get into that, there's another topic. So last time when we closed the book study, we looked at the topic, is there one perfect person for me? And that was all about soulmates. Today we are on page 44, and the topic is, how does one find the perfect business partner? All right, let's get going. Hi, Tamika. Good to see you on Facebook. Let's see who else is on Facebook. Okay. I don't know who else is there. A couple of people. Guys, if you want to join the Zoom meeting, you can find the link under the events tab in the group. Okay. So Jerry asked Abraham this question, which is where we are starting our journey today on page 44. Jerry says, if you were looking for a business partner, would you look for someone with exceptional ability and specific skills? Or would you look for someone who is more compatible with your overall intentions? And Abraham says, well, this question exposes a flawed premise or negative belief. And that negative belief is, I cannot have everything that I desire. So I have to give up some things that are important to me in order to get others. This one takes a while to learn, because our natural, that seems to be our natural response. But from working with Abraham, what I've discovered is all things are possible. So you don't have to make a compromise. Often when it comes to relationships, people say, well, I have this, and this that I really like, and so well, you can't have perfection, or you can't have everything that you want. But what I've learned from Abraham is that that's not true. You can absolutely have everything that you want in every relationship, in every situation. You can have everything that you want, because all it involves is a subtle change in the way you look at things. Because when you look at things differently, what you look at changes. Dr. Wayne Dyer's beautiful words. So let's just understand this a lot more. Abraham says, you have come to believe that you have to take the bad with the good and put up with the unwanted parts in order to have access to the favorable parts. And that's just not true, because when you start understanding law of attraction and you start understanding the fact that law of attraction is bringing you what you focus on, then that means if you are seeing qualities in a person that you don't enjoy, that must be because you're vibrating in a way that is bringing those qualities to you. It's your vibration that attracts everything that you get to you. It's not selective. Law of attraction is not selective. It works exactly the same way in every situation. Hi, Heather. Hi, Stephen. Good to see you guys. So the biggest question to ask is, if I'm attracting this behavior from someone, where was I? How was I vibrating? Because it only happens if I bring it to me. Because everything is my creation. My life is my creation. I don't have to ask people to change. I gotta change. And if I change the way I look at things, then my entire life will change. Because I control that. I control how I'm going to look at things and what assumptions am I going to make in here? Because that's what happens. Our mind runs ahead of us making assumptions. And those assumptions don't serve us unless we train our mind to make positive assumptions instead of making negative ones. The process of making assumptions is the same whether you make positive assumptions or negative assumptions. It is your mind creating a scenario that does not exist. So both work the same way. You can think that the sky is falling, or you can think that the sky will never fall. It's just a perspective. And so if you change your perspective, the reality that you live changes. All right. So then let's move on from there. Abraham says, when you focus upon the worst of someone and train your vibrational offering to match only the worst in them, the law of attraction can no longer match you up with the best of them. No one is completely one way or the other. People are a mixed bag of characteristics. And what makes it even more complicated is that people are changing. Every day, people are changing based on the thoughts they are thinking and what they're doing. You are changing on a daily basis. And as you change and the other person changes, then the future changes. The future is in moving all the time. There is no fixed, predetermined future. Because if that were true, then this cannot be true. You cannot say that I create my own reality and then also believe that there's a fixed future waiting for you. The future changes with every thought that you think. And that's why we have control. And that is why people can change their lives completely. You can, however, if you know how to read energy, you can feel the trajectory of the direction in which someone is heading. Exactly the same way that you can look at a car and the way it's heading, and you know whether it's heading north, west, south, east, west, you know which way it's heading. So if you, in my case, if I wanted to head to the lake is in the south. So I cannot say I want to go to the Lakeview Park and then turn my car north. If my car is pointed north, my friend is going to say, well, Zara, if you point your car towards the north, you're never going to get to the lake because the lake is in the south. So you can tell from the way your vibration is pointed whether you're heading towards the things that you want or whether you're heading away from the things that you want. That's all you can tell. And that is something that you can change because the direction that you are following is a thought, is created by your thought. It's a trajectory that is created by your thought. And you can change that because you can always make a U-turn. All right. So going from there, Abraham says, the people you would describe as having exceptional ability, those people that we say are talented with a certain thing or they have genius ability, all that is the capability to be aligned. Brilliance or clarity or intuitiveness that denotes exceptional ability are also characteristics of a person in alignment. Because here's the thing, here's something really important that you start understanding. You start understanding that the only real ability you have is the ability to draw stuff from the collective consciousness, from the universe. That is the only ability we have, which is our ability to receive and transmit through our antennas. That's the only ability we have. So like I say, I did not write the books that have my name on them. I flowed the information onto paper from source. Because writing the book would mean that I thought about it, I used my head, whereas I didn't do that. I flowed my book, which is why sometimes when I read bits and pieces of what I've written, it surprises me, because I didn't write it. I flowed it. And anyone who has any talent, so I say my talent is writing. I stopped counting how many books I had written, and I was saying for a very long time that I've written 12 books. And then yesterday I was sending something to someone, and it required for me to count how many books I had written, and it's 15. And that was surprising to me yesterday. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. But, and then I thought, and I have 3 or 4 more in the works, which means that that is going to go to 20. And then I thought, there's no end to this, because there's so many more books to be written, because the information flows every time I tap in. So anyone who has any talent they are not the vessel that holds the talent. They are flowing the talent. They are receiving it. They are receiving that information from the universe. They are receiving it. And what they have figured out is a way to hook into the universe in order to receive the specific type of information that they are interested in receiving. So we are not we can have any talent. This is why we can learn any skill. Because the learning of a skill involves refining the capability to tap into the universe in a way that will allow information about that skill to flow to us and through us. So we can learn anything at any age. The other day I was on, I think I was on Facebook, and I saw this video that was floating around of a 3-year-old playing a violin beautifully. Because, see, this is why they say, children, it's easier to teach children a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th language when they are young. They can learn an instrument or a skill when they are young easier than when they are older. Why? Because they don't have any negative beliefs. They don't look at a violin and say, oh, how am I ever going to play that? But me looking at a violin, my reaction can be, oh my God, how am I going to learn how to play that? 3-year-old doesn't question that. 3-year-old, you hand them a violin and they'll figure out what to do with it. When I was on my flight just now, there was a lady next to me in the lounge, and she had a little baby, not even a year old, and this baby had an iPad and knew exactly what to do with the iPad. And I turned to her and I said, isn't that so much fun to see that he knows exactly what to do with this iPad? And she said, yes, what is even more amazing is that we gave him the iPad specifically on the cruise so that he would be occupied while we enjoy the cruise. So he had only had it for a week, and he was proficient in being able to use it. Because children don't look at the iPad and say, oh, I don't know what to do with it, or this is going to be hard. So they're open to receiving the information that they need in order to use it. And what if we could have that attitude towards everything? Have that attitude towards everything. Everything in life works the same way. I startled Stella. Oh, okay. So remember that brilliance or clarity or intuitiveness is the ability to be aligned. That's all it is. So Abraham then says to Jerry that the type of business partner or partner for anything that you want to find can be someone who has the skills as well as the alignment. You don't want someone who has the skill and doesn't have the alignment. Because when you start understanding the law of attraction, you understand that a skill is useless unless it's accompanied by alignment. Because I'm just grabbing my emotional scale pen. So the same action done from a place low on the emotional scale will not give you the results that the same action will give you when it's done over here. This is the reason why two people in an organization doing exactly the same thing get different results. Sales is the place where it shows up all the time. Anyone who has been in sales knows that there are people who make 100 sales calls and get nothing, and there are people who make 100 sales calls and get 100 clients. Right? The difference is where you are on the emotional scale. It's the same list. It's the same action of dialing the phone, making a call. But the results are different. The results are different because of where people are on the emotional scale. This is why if I came to you and I said, I did this and this and this and this, and then this happened. Let me give you an example. I put 3 rotten eggs outside under the full moon, and the next day I won the lottery. Friend, why don't you do that? You didn't win the lottery because you put 3 rotten eggs in, the full moon, under the full moon. You won the lottery because you were here. And the process, the ritual, gave you hope. But you don't need rituals in order to bring yourself up to hope, because once you start understanding that everything, the power is inside you and nothing outside you can affect your experience. But then the friend says, oh, that's how you win a lottery. Right? And so this is how things get passed on and rituals get created. The other day, a YouTube video popped up on my feed and I listened to it. And it is this extremely powerful YouTube personality who talks about law of attraction with scores of followers. And this person said, if you lay down and you use these exact words of this affirmation, and then you do X, Y, and Z, money will manifest within 24 hours. And I listened to that and I was like, oh my God, that's not how money manifests, or anything else for that matter. And that's what we all need to start understanding, that the results. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't get those results. She may very well have got that result because she was high on the emotional scale. Give the same ritual to someone who's not high on the emotional scale, they're not going to get that result, because your result depends on where you are on the emotional scale. And anytime someone leaves out of their teaching momentum and emotional scale, then you cannot have the complete picture. Because the things that you should do when you're low on the emotional scale are not the same things that you should do when you're high on the emotional scale. Look at the book, Ask and It Is Given. It's organized by where you are on the emotional scale. And Abraham says, if you're in this place, don't do this thing. Don't use this process. Because it only works when you're at a certain place on the emotional scale. All right, so moving forward from that. The inherent flaw in reasoning is that you do not have access to the aligned person you need to make it better for you if you are not in alignment. Okay, so here's the thing. You can go find someone who has the skills, But if you're not in alignment yourself, then the person you find will also not be in alignment. So you've got to be that aligned person first before you're going to find someone who is also in alignment. Because the person you will find is going to be exactly like you. And so going from there, Abraham says, a lot of times people look for someone who is going to improve things for them. So let me read this so you have the complete context. Many people who are not in alignment then look to their partners to make things better. But the inherent flaw in that reasoning is that you do not have access to the aligned person you need to make it better for you if you yourself are not in alignment. I'm on page 45, and that's the second last paragraph on that page. So look for someone who has the skills and also has the alignment. Whenever we look for an expert, that's the criteria. When you look for a doctor, you don't want to go to a doctor who is very skilled, but he's miserable and makes you feel miserable after you leave the office, the doctor's office. Because that doctor is going to bring you further down, not going to inspire any confidence in you. So our reality is a mirror for how we are doing internally, and that's what we need to understand first of all, before looking for a partner of any type. Okay, and our next heading on page 46 is, who is best qualified to govern us? So Jerry says, in the area of government, who do you feel among us is the best qualified to set the standards, terms, and conditions of life for the rest of us? Abraham says that the problem is that we feel that there's one right way and we need to find it. So Abraham says your objective as a society is to eventually find the right way to live and then convince all others to agree or comply with this right way. And that is where the problem is. Because there isn't one right way. There are only perspectives, different perspectives and different ways of doing things. And all conflict in the world comes from the fact that people feel that there is a right perspective. Now, under this heading, the most interesting thing that I learned from reading this book long ago when I read it the first time and then reviewed it this morning is that Abraham talks about how new babies are born, and these new babies who are born are pure positive energy because they have not yet had the opportunity to accumulate any negative beliefs. They are pure positive energy. And then on the other hand, Abraham says, those ones who are more set in their ways die, while the open and eager ones are born. And so life continues to improve in response to the asking that life summons from you. Isn't that interesting? I mean, it kind of gives us a little bit of a perspective. This is where I found the answer to the question, why is the population of the earth increasing? Well, because we need more new ones to come in to maintain the balance. The more new ones are born, then the more pure positive energy is born on earth. And that helps the vast majority of the masses that are in between to maintain a balance. I thought that was really interesting. So Abraham says it's basically about resistance. You are billions of people living the perfect diversity just as you knew you would, constantly asking for improvement and thereby setting up for the next generation that improved life experience. If you understood that and no longer clamored for the one right way to live, things would go better for you sooner. And so, no resistance, that's what it boils down to. And basically what Abraham is telling us is that even though you live in a country that has a government, that has rules and regulations, but within that environment, you still have the ability to create your own reality. Because if you don't have any resistance, if you don't think any thoughts to the contrary, then even living in that environment, you can have a really good life. And if there are others like you who join you, then that mass consciousness will bring about a change. Because the asking is there. And when enough people are looking at that change from a positive perspective, it must come. And what Abraham is saying is sometimes it doesn't happen in your own lifetime, and it happens for the next generation because they are more allowing. If we were allowing, we would see it in our lifetime. Hang on, guys. I'm just going to see if there... So Tamika is showing it shows up in customer service as well. Your vibration does affect the type of customers that contact you. I rarely get the angry ones since I learned this. Awesome. Awesome. Hi, Jonathan. Good to see you here. Brandy, Heather, good to see you guys. All right. Thank you for that, Tamika. Yes, I agree with you. All right. So, the main thing to understand is that it doesn't matter what conditions surround you. You can still create your own little bubble in that environment. You can still find a way to be happy in that environment. And things will work out differently for you than they work out for other people because you are sending out a different vibration. Okay, so then Abraham says, Source never ceases to answer, and when you, right here, right now, no longer offer resistance to what you are asking for by focusing on the opposite of it, it will reveal itself in your life experience immediately. So it's just resistance that keeps things away that we want. All right. So then the next question Jerry asks Abraham, right at the bottom of page 47, is, so how would you envision the perfect form of government for us here? And Abraham says, it would be a government that allows you freedom to be, do, or have as you want. Your government, for the most part, has become one of rules and regulations primarily established to protect one of you from the other of you. When you come to understand that you invite through thought, then you will not feel so much need for all of that restriction, and then your government can be established as it was begun, more to offer services than restriction or control. Isn't that an interesting perspective? So the purpose of government was to make life easier by pooling resources in order to create things for mass good, for masses to use, to make life easier. The intention was never to make rules. But when people start talking about this is wrong and it should be punished or prevented, then rules come into being. And now there are so many rules. Every year there's new rules. Every year more is being put in the rule book. until you get to a point where you feel literally strangled by rules. And so the best form of government is to allow people. And when I know when I first read this perspective of Abraham, millions of thoughts ran through my head. But what about controlling this murderer or, terrorist? Or what about this and keeping our schools safe and stuff like that? But when you start understanding the fact that nothing can happen in your life if you just do one thing, and that one thing is going up the emotional scale. Nothing untoward can happen if you just do the work to go up the emotional scale, and if you are high on the emotional scale, nothing negative can happen. It can happen to other people. You can be right there and you can escape it. So nothing untoward has to happen, provided you are high on the emotional scale. Once you understand that, then you don't need locks and you don't need rules. My mother used to say locks are only meant for good people. She used to say, so I'm translating, and so the concept was that the lock will only prevent someone who is a good person not to open your luggage or whatever else you've got locked. Because if someone really wants to get in there, they can break the lock. So she always used to say locks are for good people. And it's interesting because you make rules for good people who have the intention of observing them, because you can make rules, but those who are going to break those rules will still break those rules. Right? Kids who are going to play hooky will still play hooky. Those who are going to steal are still going to steal. So rules, who are you making the rules for? What I realized when I met Abraham was the fact that when someone is at a place of love and joy, high on the emotional scale, this person will never do anything to hurt anyone else or themselves. And so this is the thing to understand, that if each one of us was to stop looking at other people and each one of us just do the work to go up here, then the world would be a perfect place, because we would not hurt ourselves and we would do nothing to hurt anyone else either. That's all we ever have to do. Because if you are here, if you are a lover, then you love regardless of the other person's behavior. When you're a lover, you're not conditioned to respond to other people and their behavior. You are a lover, which means you always flow love. So if you are over here, if you are a lover, then you love yourself and you love every other human being. You love the planet, you love the animals on this planet. You're a lover. And the minute you stop flowing love, then you're not high here. You're somewhere along here. The other thing that I realized from understanding Abraham's teachings is that when you are here, only those people can come to you who also are here in this vicinity. You will never meet people and interact with people who are here. Now, understand this one thing. No one is always over here. People are all moving up and down the emotional scale. There are lots of people who are ornery or unhappy in their lives, but they are able to hear Abraham's teachings. Why? Because when they hear Abraham's teachings, it takes them up the emotional scale to a place of hope. Hope that they can change their life. Hope that they can gain control over the things that they want control over. Hope that they can manifest abundance and health and relationships that they want. And those people who are not in a place where they can go to a place of hope, they're never going to come across Abraham's teachings. And if they do come across Abraham's teachings, they're going to say, this makes no sense. I am not going to have any of it. And they will leave it. And I have seen that happen because I have shared Abraham with everyone. And I know people, beautiful, really nice people. I look at their life and I know they need this. But when I offer it to them, it makes no sense to them. And it makes no sense to them because it's not, to me, when I listen to Abraham, it takes me up the emotional scale because it brings me to hope. But for that person, it's nonsense because they're listening to it from here. And they're not believing me when I try to give them hope. So then I just cut them loose because it's too much burden and too much work for me to drag someone up the emotional scale, because even if I was to drag them up the one time, I can't keep them there. They're going to go wherever their norm is. So this is why we can't change things for other people. Everyone has to change things for themselves. All right, coming back here. So I find it interesting that, Abraham says that your government, the role of your government is to offer services rather than restriction or control, because over the years, certainly I think control has become a bigger part of the equation. Okay. The next heading we are going to look at on page 48 is, what is our natural relationship with animals? So Jerry's question is, how would you describe our natural relationship with animals of our planet? And the important things that Abraham says under this heading is that, number one, animals are an extension of source energy in the same way that humans are. Hi, Gina. Awesome. Good to see you here. Jonathan is saying, what I have learned is when offering Abraham related, is it device or advice? I'm not sure, Jonathan. If a person does not get it, I let them go. Not everyone will have the same belief sets as others. Exactly. Absolutely true. You're right. And so I've reached a point where I would much rather spend that energy on people who are ready than on those people who are not ready. Whereas when I first started my journey with Abraham, I wanted to drag people, come here, do this. I no longer do that. Okay. So Abraham is saying the most important thing to remember is that they are extensions of source energy. So that's number one. Number two is that they have an inner being just like we have an inner being. Animals also have an inner being. Number three, third most important thing is that animals don't feel contrast to the extent that humans feel contrast. Animals don't feel. So, we give, if you watch TV or or cartoons or anything like that, we give animals the same kind of feelings that humans have, the same type of personality that humans have. But animals don't feel contrast in the same way that humans do. The best way that I can explain this to you is, if you look at the emotional scale for human beings, Abraham has suggested 22 different levels of the emotional scale. The emotional scale for animals is not that varied. It's not that varied. It does not have as much room to play. Okay? Animals do feel bad and animals do feel good. But their range of emotion is, negative emotion has less room on the emotional scale for animals, basically. The negative side of the emotional scale is shorter. That is why they are mostly in alignment. They are mostly in alignment. But when animals are domesticated, they learn from humans, and then they can spend more time on the negative side of the emotional scale, but nevertheless, the negative side of the emotional scale is a shorter leg for animals than it is for humans. And that is the basic difference. So for an animal to go into depression like a human right here at the bottom of the emotional scale is not possible, because they don't go down that much. There is not as much downward room. They can come down to revenge and anger, but they don't feel guilt and they don't feel blame. That is why they can go and eat each other. They don't feel guilt and blame. So their emotional scale cuts out over here. It doesn't go all the way down. And that's the main difference between humans and animals, which humans don't usually recognize, because humans feel that animals, because they have brains, they have eyes, they have, pretty much the same 5 senses as humans, that they should also have the same emotional reactions, but animals don't. So that's what Abraham is explaining here. Animals of your planet are less often in a state of resistance or separation. Page 48. And then what humans refer to as an animal's instinct, we call an animal's state of alignment with broader perspective. So that animal instinct, so that's the second last paragraph on page 48. What humans refer to as animal's instinct, we call an animal state of alignment with broader perspective. And that animal instinct is what an animal loses when they are domesticated. They no longer have that animal instinct because they absorb from the human environment. Evidence of the alignment of the physical animal with its broader non-physical counterpart is all around you, and so you accept it as animal behavior or instinct, when what you are actually witnessing is a physical animal who, because it is offering no resistance, has full access to the broader perspective and who understands always the larger picture. That's the last paragraph on page 48. So then Abraham explains that on page 49 that the creative process, as Abraham defines it, is step 1, you ask; step 2, source answers; step 3, you allow. Abraham says animals do ask, but then it's easy for animals to trust and therefore go straight into the third stage, which is allowing. So when humans and animals come forth from non-physical, you come with different intentions. Humans are more naturally involved in step 1, which is focusing or defining preferences and sifting through the contrast of your time and space for the express purpose of asking with ever-increasing clarity for improved life experience. Animals are more naturally involved in step 3, maintaining their alignment with their broader perspective. Humans are here to specifically create through more specific focus, whereas animals do less specific creating. So, for example, if I put Stella's food in a red bowl as opposed to a blue bowl, she's not going to complain. But if Stella was my son, he would say, I want my blue bowl. I'm not going to eat in this red bowl. See? So that's where you can see that animals don't really have as much contrast, don't observe as much contrast. They tend to take things easier and have less preferences as opposed to humans. So if you're familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy, which goes from the necessities of life all the way up to intellectual satisfaction, that intellectual satisfaction piece is a human thing. For animals basically stay at the basic level. Food and clothing. Well, maybe not so much clothing. Food and shelter. Food and shelter. Right? So they tend to stay there. Why? Because they're not reaching for more. They don't have the wish to reach for more. But humans have superimposed their own way of feeling, thinking, and doing onto animals. And because we have superimposed our own emotions and understanding onto animals, that is why we feel bad when something happens to an animal. The animal does not feel as bad as we do for the animal. Hi Rimpy, good to see you. All right. So, okay. So that's why, because animals are not reaching for that much more, that is why they are able to stay more or less in a place of allowing. So Abraham then says at the bottom of page 49, and while the animals of your planet are an important source of food for each other and for humans, the greatest value they bring to life on planet Earth is the vibrational balance they provide, as they are extensions of source energy and remain predominantly in alignment with that energy. Humans and animals make a very nice combination, just as you knew you would. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and not go into, oh no, maybe I will go into the next one. Yeah, because that will conclude our reading about animals. So then Jerry's next question to Abraham is, can humans influence the other living things on the planet, or do humans only have control over them? So Jerry is differentiating between influence and control, like breaking or controlling a horse. Abraham says, control never proves to be satisfying for the one attempting the control or the one being controlled, because both controlling others and being controlled by others are unnatural to man and beast. So, with the absence of offering control, all would find alignment with source. And you don't have to break a horse, you can, that's where the horse whisperers came in, right? Because they don't break a horse, they just talk to the horse. So, whether man or beast, you have inherent, innate, selfish natures that you eternally seek to satisfy. In other words, when you are in complete alignment with source within you and therefore experiencing the benefit of that broad perspective, you're receiving what you want anyway. So you don't feel the need to take it from someone else by force, even if that someone is an animal. Stella, when I go out for a walk and she meets people from outside our family unit, people think that she's a puppy. because she exhibits the behavior of a puppy. She's full of life. She's excited. Her tail can't stop wagging. She literally wants to, just hug me, lick me kind of, thing is going on with her. And when they ask me how old is she, and I tell them how old is she, they don't believe me. Well, that's because we don't control her as much. There's no control here. And yet she is extremely well behaved. I always laugh at this. My children and I, we laugh because we have this joke in our family that is, Stella trained herself. She trained herself. We didn't do anything. Everything that she knows how to do is because she trained herself. Why? Because we wanted it. We didn't have any attachment to the outcome. She gives us the behavior that we want. And so, if we had controlled her, we would have dampened her spirits. But she's so lively, and we love it. We love that she's still a puppy. That's why I still call her my puppy. Because she behaves like a puppy. And when I see that difference, I've always had dogs, but I see the difference in what I have done with this dog as opposed to what I've done with other dogs. So in the past, when you train a dog, what the dog does is that it accepts your guidance as opposed to its own. It gives up its own guidance in favor of the guidance of its human master. That's basically what it is. We haven't done that with Stella. So let's move on. What does Abraham say? So Abraham says, control of another is never necessary to your survival or well-being. That's towards the bottom of the paragraph when Abraham is speaking. Second paragraph. In that state of alignment, you're always guided to circumstances that will accommodate the well-being that you seek. Only someone not in that state of alignment would ever seek control over another. So this is really important because you see, here's the thing, law of attraction behaves the same way whether it's about a human or an animal. So now Abraham is explaining influence. What is influence? While in the state of alignment, you offer no vibration contradictory to your intent, and when it is without contradiction in that powerful state of alignment, the law of attraction provides evidence of that non-resistant intention. That is what influence is. When you are in that state of connection, your power of influence is very strong because it is only your contradictory vibration that ever causes you to be weak. So, being in that state of powerful influence does not mean that you can get someone to stop doing what he intends to do and to begin pleasing you instead. It means that when you are not contradicting your own intentions and are therefore offering a powerful vibrational signal, the law of attraction will bring to you people, circumstances, and events that match that signal. So what is the end result? The end result is, if just go up the emotional scale, find your alignment, and then everything will fall into place. Animals intuitively move towards anything or anyone who offers benefit and away from anyone or anything who does not offer benefit. If you have ever been to a zoo, a petting zoo, or even a proper zoo with young ones, you will notice, I used to notice, that all the animals started following my children. Have you ever noticed that? Like my son would be walking and he'd have all the little baby chicks lined up behind him. And, like animals gravitate to people who are in alignment because they don't feel afraid of them. My daughter says this about herself, that she says that dogs love her. And so dogs from all over the place will go to her because she's not afraid of them, and they're not afraid of her. So she attracts all shapes and sizes of dogs to her. But just notice next time, just notice a child. Children, because they don't have fear, we have not yet taught them fear. Animals don't feel afraid of them. And when you lose your fear of wild animals, you will see that they will stop and offer you a greeting. Just notice that. When you go for a walk, and if you're not afraid and you're in a place of alignment, all the squirrels will stop for a second, closer than you usually see them. Bunny rabbits will stop. They'll look at you. And birds as well. Lots of birds. I always feel that they're saying hello to me, and so I always say hello to them. Send them love. All right, folks, that's it for today. I am going to stick around. If anyone has any questions, people on Zoom, you can just jump in, just unmute and jump in. People on Facebook, I see you, but if you type your question, I will pick it up in the comments. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm thinking about this part that says, where is this? And while the animals on your planet are an important source of food for each other and humans, the greatest value they bring to life on the planet is their vibrational balance they provide.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about my good Abraham friend, who I think she would disagree with this because
a lot of people.
She feels very bad for like eating animals or fish or whatever. And I don't know, this is the one thing I think I would ask Abraham about if I got a chance again, was to be like, and I know the answer is like, just allow whoever to be whoever they are.
There's no wrong perspective.
Yeah.
But the point that I will make, which is the way I look at things, this is my perspective. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, Andrew. I know you know the answer to these questions. So it's not a test. So you and I, we understand that everything is energy. We are in a soup of energy. And we understand that every cell in our body is powered by that energy of source. A cell in a human body is a cell. Or it might look a little bit different than the cell inside a plant, but it's the same source energy, same cellular structure that's in a plant cell, in a human cell, right? So how do you know the carrots that you pull out of the ground don't have a soul? You have a soul. You are made of the same type of cellular material, same type of energy. Just because the carrot doesn't talk to you, you feel that the carrot does not have a soul. Because the carrot you haven't dissected the carrot and found a brain. So you feel that the carrot does not have a soul. But everything has a soul because everything is an extension of source energy. And source energy is basically what you call a source, a soul. So as far as I'm concerned, the carrot is as alive as I am. Everything is as alive as I am. Even a rock has, when you go down to the atomic structure of things, even that tiny rock is made up of atoms that are powered by the energy of source, and they are the same atoms that are also in my body, that are also in the cabbage and the carrot and the cow. Everything consists of molecules that can be broken down to their chemical components that are all made up of cells. So I completely understand where people are coming from because I was there. So a lot of people have gone that way. I was that way and came this way because of Abraham.
You're making me think of when you were talking about people that can't hear it.
Well,
like I know that trying to convince her that.
No, there's no point. I don't try.
I know, exactly.
I don't try. But all I'm saying is, this is what I've learned from Abraham, is that at the end of the day, I also have this interesting dialogue in my head when I meet people who will buy something that comes in a bottle and call it natural. So this one in this bottle is natural and this one in this bottle is not natural. And I'm like, yes, but you can break all of this down into its chemical composition, and you can break all of this down into its chemical composition, and at that level it's the same, because everything in this universe can be broken down to that basic small subatomic particle, and that is in everything. So I know that people have different beliefs, and I think it's okay for them to have different beliefs, because that's what the contrast is all about. That's what the diversity of planet Earth is all about.
The expansion.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that it's wonderful that people care about animals. We should care about animals. We should care about plants as well. I think that the more plants and animals we have on this planet, the more we can tip the balance towards pure positive things happening on the planet. So when they say plant a tree, absolutely. Plant a tree. The more flowers we have, the more trees we have, the more bushes, more plant life we have. Because if you look at the hierarchy, so let's say we have humans, and then we have animals, and then we have plants. Plants don't feel contrast at all. Remember where I was talking to you about how the negative side of the emotional scale is shorter for animals, and it ends before blame and guilt because they don't feel any blame or guilt about anything? Well, for plants, there is no negative side of the emotional scale. That's the difference. So from that perspective, I understand your friend, because an animal still can feel negative emotion, whereas a plant does not feel any negative emotion at all. That's the difference. They are just pure positive energy. So the more plants we have on this planet, then the more well-being will prevail on this planet, because they don't feel. You can kill a plant, the plant does not feel. That's why I said, what's the difference? When you pull carrots out of the ground, you just kill the carrot, right? You just killed a carrot. It was a living thing. You killed it and you ate it. The difference is that the carrot does not feel negative emotion. So by saying that we should not kill animals, then what we are saying is that the feeling of negative emotion is wrong. So we shouldn't do anything that, if that's the argument, is that if we shouldn't do anything that causes anyone to feel negative emotion. But that's where law of attraction says, be only concerned with your own emotions.
Yeah.
Not with others. So, yes, this is really a subject. Thank you for bringing it up. It is a subject that I've actually spent a lot of time thinking about. Because as I said, I have gone the other way. From my heart used to bleed to, okay, it's all right. My heart does not need to bleed.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so any other questions, Lakshmi, Deborah?
No, I just wanted to thank you. Thanks very much. That was very good.
Awesome. I enjoyed it. All right. Oh my God. I'm going to put it on YouTube and let's see what happens. All right, guys. Have a super fantastic day and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Yes, Rimpy, awesome. And Jonathan is saying, oh, you kill the carrot, eat it, yet its energy goes back to source to come back around again as another carrot or perhaps something else. Well, see, Jonathan, the thing about energy is everything goes back to source. And it's like that drop of water that when you put it back into the ocean, it loses its own existence and becomes part of the ocean. Now you can't find that exact same drop of water again. And so that is what happens when anyone makes their transition, including the carrot, going back to source. Once it's back into source, source energy is rebirthing, but not necessarily that exact same carrot. All right, folks, love you all lots. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now. Oh, sorry. I will see people in my community tomorrow, like I always do, every day. And I will see every one of you next week on Thursday. Bye for now.